Welcome to Slasher Sports Cinema, division of Slasher Sports, and thank you for tuning in. I want to ask you to hit that subscribe or follow button and turn on those notifications. Today's guest is the CEO and founder of his very own company, Abadak, as well as an actor, writer, director, producer, and stand-up comedian. Young or up-and-coming filmmakers, I want you to know his story. He was a long shot. I'm thankful to welcome to Slasher Sports Cinema, Mike Stein. Mike, you ready to put some lipstick on this pig?
Absolutely.
Let's get it.
They will say that I have shed innocent blood. What's blood for, if not for shedding?
I'm my number one fan.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
God, it knows I'm here.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
You're listening to the Slasher Sports Show with Billy Graves.
Mike, first of all, thank you very much for taking the time on this beautiful Friday to come and talk to me.
My pleasure. I like that White Bat music. That was pretty good.
You like that?
Yeah.
I put that together myself. I got to think.
You like that?
No. I had to piece a few things together is what I mean. The music is from Carl Casey at White Bat Audio. I got to shout him out on everything. He's great. He's a very talented, kind of a cyberpunk kind of a guy, man.
Yeah.
I love his tunes. Love him.
Absolutely.
But Mike, like I said before, man, you were really a long shot in this life. And like knowing your story really motivates me. And I want to motivate our listeners who are largely fans of the horror genre and up and coming filmmakers, likely working on limited budgets. Not coming from any kind of background that's probably gonna, be conducive to doing everything they want to do. So before we go even another step, I'd really like our listeners to know more about your podcast, Longshot Leaders.
Okay. I'll try to segue from the podcast into something that might motivate them to say, hey, look, man, it's just time plus effort and I can do this because I know what it's like to be an independent filmmaker. So my story goes kind of like this. I do Longshot Leaders podcast because for a long time, I just considered myself a long shot. So I feel like I come from a long line of long shots. So I had to sleep in the same room with my grandmother until I was 9 years old. So she would tell me the story about how she escaped the Russian concentration camps on her way to America. My dad was a New York homeless street kid, slept on the streets. He became a multimillionaire, only to become homeless again when I was in high school. Living out of a van, not even down by a river. I was born with ADD, ADHD, dyslexia, health issues, never had any success except for making people laugh. And then one day I saw the movie Rocky when I was 11 years old. And I said, here's a guy like me, makes people laugh. He keeps on trying. He's dumb, at least that, I just considered myself dumb back then, so never really succeeded in anything other than, being funny. And he was funny like me. I said, the only difference is that Rocky is physically fit. So then I started working out every day. I was like, I'm going to make this my thing. And by the time I was 16, I was very successful at two things. I was making people laugh, and I was a physical fitness trainer at the local Nautilus gym. I said, oh man, time plus effort equals success. I could do anything, right? So, okay. Now I'm going to become a comedian. I do stand-up comedy when I was 19. First of all, first thing I did was before I graduated high school, a month before, my tutor's like, what do you want to do? I said, I want to be an actor, a entrepreneur, and a stand-up comedian. She's like, you might want to work with your hands because not everybody's meant to do what they want to do. And I was like, screw you. My dad didn't even finish the 8th grade and he became a multimillionaire. Although he lost it all, I'm not going to do that. So I started to do what he did before he made his money. He had a tool business when he was younger. And I said, I'm going to do a tool business. Made 2 sales in 2 hours. And then I didn't make anything after that. And it was summertime. It was the day after I graduated high school. I said, screw it. And that's when I started, I was studying acting, and I said, I'm going to do stand up. And I brought a lot of people there, and I said, shit, if I could bring a lot of people here, nightclub promotion was pretty big in the 80s. I said, I'm going to promote nightclubs. And then within like 6 months, I became the number one nightclub promoter in my age bracket in Los Angeles. So I said, time plus effort again, right? Time plus effort equals potential success. So I said, I'm going to go out to be an actor. So after my first role, when I was a nightclub promoter, I was playing Dirk Diggler in the Dirk Diggler Story, which is the short film version of Boogie Nights, which I appeared in as well. And my friend at the time, Paul Thomas Anderson, it was like his first film. And I never really thought it would be anything, but then it won an American Film Institute Award and started to see him progress. And I'm promoting clubs. I'm doing movie parties with Warner Brothers. And I said, I want to leave all this because I see the success he's having. And I really want to be an actor and a filmmaker like he is. He was a filmmaker. So I left the nightclub business, which was crazy because it was really lucrative. And I said, I'm going to be a filmmaker. So I worked in film production and I did a documentary I did a documentary on raves and history of house music around the country. We went around for 4 months and that documentary, looked great, but it didn't make money and I failed. So then I was like, screw it, man. I'm going to keep going. And then I did a short film 2 years later, a dramatic live action short film, won many awards, won 2 biggest short film live action short category awards, which is Palm Springs International and Oberhausen, which if you make short films, those are the 2 that you really want to win other than the Academy Awards or Cannes or Sundance. Those are really specific towards short film. Got me an HBO deal from that, got me all the meetings in Hollywood. And I met with Trimark Pictures, Lionsgate, and Joel Silver's office, and you name it. And I got close to a movie deal just like my friend did because I had other screenplays that I wrote about underground gambling casinos in LA. They wanted to make that one because that really happened to me because I was running underground gambling casinos in LA when I was also a nightclub promoter. And it just didn't turn over to a movie deal. I said, screw you, Hollywood. It's been 2 years since I'd done my short film, and I'm going to make my own movie. Only problem is I was broken in debt, and I needed to become an entrepreneur again. So I started a business because I wanted to do something on the internet. Had nothing to do with, the film industry. I started selling tarps. Within 6 months, made $500,000. I said, going to make my own movie. And it was an outrageous comedy that Hollywood would never let me make called Love Hollywood Style with Andy Dick, Coolio, God rest his soul, he just died last month, and Faye Dunaway, 2-time Academy Award winner. And I made that film, very funny film, won some awards, just didn't make enough money. And I said, fuck you, Hollywood. I'm going to just continue to build my business since it's made well over $100 million as a business. And if I want to go back to filmmaking, I can. I do that, for my business. But that's my Reader's Digest version of the up and down long shot story of why, if I was going to do a podcast, it'd be somebody that failed and succeeded, but hopefully learned in the end how to succeed, like a good structure of a script would be. Moral needs, inciting incidences, downfall, near-death experience, which there is one, and then basically, equilibrium where your hero at the end has a new head on his shoulders, and he prospers in the end. And that's kind of like my Reader's Digest version.
You know that this listener base doesn't have a clue what Reader's Digest is.
Yeah, that's right. That's so funny. Very short, condensed version. Reader's Digest, that's how old I am. Reader's Digest was an old magazine that said, you want to know what this movie or TV show is about? We're going to, here's a whole little paragraph of it right there.
Yeah, not unlike a TV Guide, which is another publication that's basically gone into obscurity. Reader's Digest was something that people waited for. That was like must-read mail right there.
I'm so happy you said that because I think I'm going to deep six that reference because it's just antiquated.
It really is, but I mean, but that kind of puts you in the moment with who you're talking to. I mean, I'm 40, so I know.
You look younger.
Well, thank you. So do you, Mike. So do you. So let's talk about the Dirk Diggler story. I wasn't even going to bring it up. Because you probably have to go through that spiel every time you talk to anybody. That's like the easy big target to talk about. But I mean, since you brought it up, Paul Thomas Anderson. First of all, this isn't like just some like Billy Graves schmuck making a film. Like Paul Thomas Anderson, like he directed There Will Be Blood. Okay, like Academy Award nominated. He directed the Daniel Day-Lewis in his Oscar-winning performance. Like, was nominated himself for best director, best writer. How did you end up on that film? You said you were good friends with him, so apparently you didn't have to, I guess, audition for the role. It was kind of like, hey, buddy, I've got this going on. See if you can help me out.
So my girlfriend and his girlfriend were sisters at the time. So I walk out of the house at her dad was Peter Guber, most powerful man in Hollywood at this time, which I wasn't going out with because I was in love with this girl. But I see Paul, and he walks out of the guest house with his girlfriend, my girlfriend's sister. And he goes, I need to ride home because he crashed his Cherokee, his first car. And his dad says, I'm not buying you a new one. So he always had to like bum rides. So I said, I'll drive you down to your house, no problem. And I'm a stand-up comedian and a nightclub promoter. I'm like, I'm anything that I see that he's laughing at some of my jokes. What does a comedian do? He's a laugh whore. So I just know how I'm digging into it now. And I just go on a roll and I'm just making him laugh the whole time. And I drop him off. And then like 2 days later, he calls me up and says, I want to do a film about the rise and fall of a porno star. And I want you to play the porno star. And I was like, well, as long as I don't have to get, like naked or anything, wouldn't be such a good film. So, I said, sure. So we go down to his house and we, and he's, just a broke kid, 17 years old. But I could see that he's uber into making movies because his whole room was just all film oriented. And we just, talked about it for a few months. We did some joke videos leading up to that. We get an idea, and they said, let's shoot this idea. But then like 3 or 4 months later, he finally finished writing it and going over ideas and stuff. And then we shot it.
That's great. And, you were in the feature length film as well in that scene with Don Cheadle, where he's selling you the stereo. I remember the thing I remember most about this scene is that little hip motion he's got going on when he's trying to sell you the the stereo.
Right.
That, and there's probably something that maybe it's my just overly attentive mind noticed. Like, it looked like you were walking over a dead body as you were walking off the screen. What was up with that?
I'm so glad you noticed that. Some people don't notice that, but so there's a dolly track. It's dollying in as I'm walking away, and they never featured the shoes that I'm wearing, but the wardrobe's like, we want you to wear these shoes, and they were like platform Elton John shoes. So when you walk over the dolly track, I'm 5'7", I'm an inch taller than Al Pacino. So I'm short. So I have to walk over the dolly track and clear about 6 inches, and the dolly track, so like there's a little bit of a step there.
They almost caught your knee in the shot, having to step over, right?
Right. But hey, look, I mean, my legs aren't that long to begin with. So, you got to the ratio of height, plus 6 inches in these Elton John platform shoes going over, approximately 5-inch dolly track. That was a bit of a step.
Well, it's dumb that I even remember that, but this was during my high school years, and not to put a stamp on anything. We've already discussed the slight age difference, but there were 3 films that I just come up with off the top of my head that I basically had to go behind my parents' back to see. Okay, one was Showgirls. I guess was, part of me was hoping there'd be cameos from the rest of the Saved by the Bell crew on there. Right. Number 2 was Fair Game, Billy Baldwin and Cindy Crawford flick. When word got out that Cindy was going to bear it all, like the guys on the football team, it became like threat level midnight. We were like the Black Hand conspiring to kill Archduke Ferdinand. We had a crinkled up, just semen stained map on the table with everybody's positions, where we had to be, what we had to tell the parents to get out of the house. And then 3 was Boogie Nights.
Right.
But enough about.
I was before Showgirls came out, before Boogie Nights. I was an extra on Showgirls.
You were an extra?
Yeah, on Showgirls. Yeah.
See, I didn't even see that that credit. That I tried to do my homework and I missed that one.
Credits were for background.
I see.
My first job before I even did the Dirk Diggler story, the first time I was on a film set this is a nice little story. I was an extra on a movie called Lesson Zero, and I was shooting party scenes at night. Lesson Zero was with Robert Downey Jr. and Andrew McCarthy and several other, James Spader, several other actors. Andrew McCarthy's big breakout role, other than Weird Science. And I was hanging out with this good-looking guy for 3 days. He was an extra. I'm an extra. I'm with a couple of my friends. There's like 300 people at this party scene. And he's like, yeah, I've been shooting on this for like 3 days. He's all excited. He's like, you want to meet Robert Downey Jr.? I'm like, yeah. So we go up the driveway in Benedict Canyon, and Downey Jr. was shooting night. So he gets at like 5:30. He's just waking up. Walks out, and he's like, anybody got a light? And he's got a cigarette. And I was like, yeah. And he's talking to all of us. He's so cool. And I was like, and then I remember talking to my friends. I'm like, this good-looking guy, it's like, he's been working on this, film for like 2 more days than us. He's like passed around football. I'm like 19, 20 years old. So I'm all excited. And I just remember these poor guys coming from like the Midwest, but they don't make it. And this guy's so cool and nice. It's sad. And then I realized after I got his phone number, but I invited him by my club because I just started promoting a club at that time. He never went by the club because I don't think he was a nightclub person. It took me like 3 of his movies to figure out. I was like, holy shit, that was Brad Pitt.
Damn, what?
And we share a scene too. If you watch the movie before, like we walk into the house with all the monitors and everything, you could see me walking. He's walking first. He's wearing a sleeveless pink and white shirt with Ray-Bans at night. And I'm right behind him. I got a ponytail and a black jacket, and I'm like bobbing, walking down. And that's a fun little, trivia tidbit there for you.
Well, listen, all right, I'm not going to let you say that, these good-looking people are around and then there's me. It's like, no, man, you got it. All right, was there ever a time where you could have been reprising that role as Dirk Diggler?
I wanted to, and it's a long story, but, it's tough because when I did Dirk Diggler, it was my first acting role. It was the first time ever doing anything where you're memorizing lines, you're doing, delivering your work, you're filming. So when you're friends with somebody and that, your first impressions are big. Then I got heavily involved with studying with Eric Morris and Cynthia Seghetti and a lot of, Gene Shelton and a lot of venerable acting teachers. So by the time Boogie Nights came out, I was primed and ready. But, Paul did have an obligation for a certain amount of budget. Mark Wahlberg, he wanted a name, so I know I was ready as a thespian to take on that role, especially because I lived with it for like 7 years, talking about the character and the breakdown, all that. But it's a business, so I understood that part of it too.
Was there ever a time where you tried to at least change some minds and say, you know what, look, I know you've got Wahlberg on the back burner here. I know you can get him, but all he's done is rapped at this point of note. So like, look, here's what I can do. I mean, well, I guess
of course I did. Yes, I did, of course. And I did. Sure. But nobody owes you anything. I learned that, and you can't hold grudges and it doesn't pay. And people, you got to make it happen on your own regardless. It's funny. This same subject, I have a friend named Bradley Craig. He was in a movie called Stand By Me. He was like number 2 to like Keith Sutherland in that movie. And he went to my high school. We were friends. And it was 1986. I'm sitting in the movie theater and high school. And I was like, if I just watching the credits, I'm like, if I just knew some of these people in the credits like Bradley did, I'd be able to get in these movies. And then 2 years later, I'm dating, and I didn't even know who he was until I just really liked this girl a lot. I was really attracted to her, and she was sweet, and we went out for 2 years. But I found out that her father was Peter Guber, who at the time produced Academy Award-winning Rain Man when I started dating her, and then Batman, which I also did a big movie party for, probably the biggest movie party, But I stumbled upon the most powerful man in Hollywood. And then they wanted to help me. But I was like, I don't want to accept help because I love your daughter. And if I took help from you, that means that I'm playing you. And I had this weird thing going on. You're young and dumb, but they liked me because I was a good kid, so that's part of the learning growth. So then when it came time to, when Paul was becoming more powerful, then you know who you are in the world a little bit, a couple of years later. And now you're like, wait, I know my worth. I know I'm capable, you know, and then sometimes they'll ask, but you don't get. So, you know, it's funny because you look at those credits, and one of my best friends is Chris Peters, and his dad's John Peters. He's a big time producer, and they're estranged. So just because that's his son, you know, so Hollywood's a tough place. You know, you have to really, like, more so than any other industry, you know, and it depends on how, not just who you know, but how, you know, what's your relationship like with who you know. And, you know, and it's just you know, it's a tough, you know, situation, but you have to really be Zen-like and Taoist to make sure that you just keep on chugging along. And if you might not get to where you wanted to go initially, but you'll get to another place.
And some people just don't take rejection very well.
Right.
It can be crippling. Right.
And when I was given a loss of hey, look, you know, you're in a movie, and that's you know, you make the best of it that you can. I really liked Philip Seymour Hoffman one of the people that I was talking on the set, and he was like, you know, even on audition, you give it your best, you enjoy the process, you really sink your teeth into it, and that's part of the craft. So, you know, when I was, they walk over in the dolly shot, you know, every word that Don Cheadle's talking about, who's a great craftsman, by the way, and a great actor, you know, in that small little role, I'm spending time to get selflessly involved. My internal dialogue is trepidation on not knowing if I want to spend as much money on this device, you know, and, I went to a Best Buy to do a walk, you know, kind of look at something and how do I feel when there's been a situation in the past where I felt about, you know, buying something like that. And that was particular to that. So, you know, you have fun with the process, no matter how large or small, whether it's an audition or whatever it is, because that's the craft.
That is the craft. And, you know, the rejection is just one thing, but there are plenty of things that keep people from taking action on, you know, on what they want. What do you think holds people back the most from taking action? Because it's so easy not to take action. It's quite literally the easiest, most readily available option there is to not take a step.
Yeah. You know, it's fear, you know, leverage of pain plus pleasure. So, you know, it's weird because I did stand-up comedy, but, and you get rejection all the time. It's in real time, you know,
in real time.
And you could also get reward in real time. So, you know, I was used to it, but, you know, also you leverage, it depends on what you want. You know, I wanted financial security also. My three goals were, I wanted to be an entrepreneur, I wanted to be a stand-up comedian, and I wanted to be an actor. So my dad, when I was a kid, you know, he was had a fledgling tool business in the 60s. And in the 70s, he left the tool business and his partner, Alan Smith, to sell these calculators. And he became such a big entrepreneur, and he made lots of money. It looked really fun. They called him the calculator kid. And I was a kid, I was like, I want to be the calculator kid, right? So then through a crazy lifestyle, which is for the Burt Reynolds characters, like 30% of that's based on my dad, crazy, notorious orgy parties in LA, blew all his money, long story. But I saw him, and then my dad was homeless again, but I saw this great lifestyle. So I want to be the calculator kid. So I wanted to be an entrepreneur, an actor, and a stand-up comedian. I was doing those others. So I went back to being an entrepreneur. Incidentally, my dad's partner, and this is a lesson of you guys, you know, stay the course sometimes, that tool business, he left his partner to sell these calculators. Well, in 1975, his partner, Alan Smith, his nickname was Smitty, he started a company called Harbor Freight. I don't know if you guys have heard of that. It's like a multi-billion-dollar company, and they're all around the country. So that was my dad's old business plan. And I grew up around this atmosphere, so I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. So when you get fear rejection as an actor, in the old days, it's a little different now. You'd spend a half hour, sometimes in LA, an hour on the freeway. You got to sit and wait to get on there. You got to do the audition, and then you got to drive back home in traffic. That's like a 5-hour deal sometimes in LA just for one audition, and you might not get the job. And it's usually 30 auditions per one job. You got to go on 30 rejections to get one job. So I was like, I could be working as an entrepreneur. So certain people are like, no, I want to be an actor. I'm going to die for it. I don't care what else I do. Everything else is going to suffer. And I was that guy, was a filmmaker, and for a certain amount of time. But I gave myself a shelf life, and I said, I'm not going to, because I have a lot of friends that are like my age now, and they're like, yeah, man, I'm living in New York. I'm still going for it. I'm doing an off Broadway thing, and that's pretty cool at Wooster Street with Willem Dafoe's theater group, and it's really rewarding. I'm doing some good work, and I'm like, fuck it, I'm not gonna. I just, that wasn't a route for me, So hell, I made enough money when I became an entrepreneur and made my own movie again, and I might even do the same thing right now, coming up pretty soon. So that's just the way it is.
So you've dealt with ADHD, dyslexia.
It's a good segue, by the way, because I'm ADHD it right now, big time. But yeah, go ahead.
Okay, but present tense, you deal with ADHD, and but also like damn near homelessness. A very good possibility of not making a damn thing yourself, and then. Let's fast forward to 2006. Let's talk about Love Hollywood Style. And in 2006, you wrote, directed, starred in this film about intersecting stories set in, obviously, Kansas. Just kidding, Hollywood. But who was in this thing? You said Andy Dick, who I'm a big fan of, first of all. Doesn't get enough love. Faye Dunaway, absolute hammer of a goddess. I think Larry Drake was in this thing, right? R.I.P. to him. Yeah, so for all you horror jerks, Larry Drake was Dr. Giggles and Bubba in Dark Knight of the Scarecrow, which I will not hear any slander on. Just let that be known. But Mike, for the young or up and coming filmmakers, you showed with the right plan, the right organization, and that formula, you can wear multiple hats on set and make it successful. Can you tell me a little bit about your journey making Love Hollywood Style? Okay, you guys, not to brag, I'm just saying because I made so many mistakes and I made so many successes. I'll go on and tell you some good stuff about how to make an independent film. Down and dirty, okay? Real quick, I started Love Hollywood Style, made some mistakes on my short film I did before that in 1998, came out in 99. Got bought by HBO. It was tight. I was working in film production, had a crew, had really good, backup behind me. And I was on my game, storyboarding it and shot, composite, everything. Then I was like, screw it. I'm just going to make a feature, right? It's only times 3, 30 minutes times 3, 90 minutes, right? Right. So I was like, I'm going to write. I wrote it. I was like, I'm going to direct it and produce it. I'm going to act in it because no one's going to put me in my own shit anyway. So why not just do it? And no one's going to want to make this film because it's so outrageous. I was like, you know what? If I'm going to make something, and I was just supposed to be a whole movie. But here's where the disease comes from. And this is a mistake. There's a lot of successes and mistakes in Love Hollywood Style. So I'm like, I'm going to make it down and dirty, and it's just going to be outrageous and funny, like Kentucky Fried Movie meets like American Beauty. It's going to be intelligent, but it's going to be crazy. It's going to have like references to Kafka, but it's also going to be, wacky. So I start, pre-production, and I have my B list of actors. Now, this is a little trick. You start, you get ready for shooting, you get all your contacts together. But then you got your A-list actors, right? But they don't want to, if they're really good actors, that, for independent wise, you're not going to get like a Brad Pitt or anybody, on a shoestring budget, unless he's your best friend and he's like feels passionate. So you got your A-list, so you go over your B-list, and then you're talking to the agents and like, no, how much money you got? It's like in Love Hollywood Style, there's a reference. You get the money, we'll get the talent. You get the talent, we'll get the money. You're in gridlock, you're in purgatory. Nothing's happening. So you have to set a shoot date. Now, you have to let your B actors know that you might not use them. So I start getting ready for Love Hollywood Style. I got my, my team together. I got a couple good names in there, but Faye Dunaway's not committed yet. Andy Dick's not committed yet, and Coolio couldn't get a hold of him. And had to that was on the fly. That's a good story in itself. So I wait till we're like a week away from shooting. And I had somebody locked and loaded for Faye Dunaway to play God, right? Nobody, that's awesome to have Faye Dunaway play God. So yes, then I said, I know of her lawyer. So I call up and say, look,
here's the script. We want her to play God. If she's not doing anything next week, why not be in our movie? How much does she want? Let us know what the price is, because you never get a price even if you're calling 4 months out, because she's waiting out. She might get a call from who knows. She's not going to give you that kind of attention. But a week from now, what's she going to do? Have lunch at Dantana's or whatever, right? So then you wait to that last moment. You already got somebody waiting in the wings, but you put the approach. Faye Dunaway, she wants $10,000 in a paper bag. Don't ask her why in a brown paper bag. She wanted that, and I'm like, I'm making money now, right? You can fuck you money. I'm like, no problem, which is actually pretty cheap for a 2-time Academy Award winner.
Yes, it is.
I was like, we're gonna work the whole schedule around her. I got the studio. I'm at the White Psych in the studio to play so let's just shoot around her. And, week later, we're acting with her. You get it on the fly, because actors want to act if they liked. You got to do some good work. They liked my short film too. That was a door opener because it won a lot of awards, and there was some acclamation there. So that's one way. Now, Love Hollywood Style started shooting in 2003. Started burning the boats with my business, and I was like, oh wait, that's the bread and butter now. I don't want to lose. I don't want to, So I had to take a rest. And then post-production, and then it came out finally in 2006 through a production company that picked it up. So I started shooting it in 2003, and it came out in 2006, and it was a pretty crazy shoot, but it was funny, and that's just kind of like what you can do when you're trying to make a short film. Oh, and also I started spending so much more money. I'm like, this is before digital, it was really prevalent. And I was like, I'm going to shoot digital. I'm like, no, I want 35 millimeter because I got Faye Dunaway now. And let's just make it look great. I want that anamorphic, film look, and it just, let's spend a lot more money than I was planning to. But that's, there's a lot more way. You got to steal your shots. You got to steal your location sometime, and you got to do what you got to do. But that's a long way to get talent. You wait to the last moment, and then you try to snag somebody.
You've done a hell of a job with it, Mike. You did a hell of a job with it. You're welcome. Well, we've got your personal link ready to put into our bio. We're going to take people over to longshotleaders.com. Before we get out of here, was there anything else that you wanted to, I guess, tell our listeners about? I mean, what's Michael Stein up to today? You mentioned something. I don't think you can give out details on those future endeavors, though.
I can right about now as far as what I'm doing. I'm planning to do a film again. But the bigger thing that I'm doing right now is, I've had that company that I've launched, it's made a lot of money since I started it. It's a Me Too company that sells a Me Too product, meaning you can get that product anywhere. It's like, tarps and canopies and tent, stuff like that. Outdoor stuff. Has nothing to do with filmmaking. But what I'm launching next year is a whole new brand, separate company. The fulfillment, we have a big fulfillment, my company does in Texas, outside of Austin, in Georgetown. And I'm starting a company called Bellator, which is making a unique type of patented outdoor product, and a whole line of these products that will hopefully be like bigger than the next Yeti. It's quite interesting. So I'm launching that in June of 2023. Been planning it for like a year and a half, 2 years. And after that, we're going to be I'll be shooting my own commercials and my own stuff for that, and a lot of stuff. But I was just talking to somebody as far as film. I was talking to somebody about shooting a script that I wrote, semi-autobiographical, about a dysfunctional family up in wine country. So a drama. So that's in the future, and definitely going to go back to doing stand-up once I get done with that film, and the company is working on cylinders, and has momentum. I'll go back to doing stand-up, which would probably be like Dick Shawn died on stage, which I have died on stage, theoretically, but I would like to do what Dick Shawn did and just collapse on stage one day.
I mean, we thought Ric Flair was going to die in the ring. Don't take up his big story, right? Man, you've come from some very unlikely backgrounds, and you made a hell of a body of work out for yourself. Something to be proud of. I can't wait to see what you do moving forward. I'm going to keep an eye out for it. I'm going to make sure our listeners do the same. I want to thank you very much for your time today. A lot of things you could be doing on a Friday, but here you are, just chilling and slash your sports cinema, and I couldn't be more happy that you've done so.
It's my
So
pleasure.
thank you very much. I thank you very much for your time. And guys, I want to remind you to check us out on slashersports.com, on Twitter and TikTok at Slasher Cinema BG. That's me. And at Slasher Sports, Slasher Sports Media on Instagram. I hope you take Michael's story and use it as motivation to go and kill your day. So may you all drink the blood of your enemies from the skulls of their children.